Alright guys, gonna be doing a different type of video. Gonna be doing something called the hot take tier list. So like the name imply, gonna be talking about unit that I want to place into the tier list, but since I personally have not released all the units to its full capacity, granted I don't even have most of them on my global account. Majority of them I only try on JP side, so it's a little bit different, right? But essentially got the bare bone down. So we are gonna rank all these units. So how I'm gonna do this, I'm not really gonna be making like a tier list like every week or every month or whatnot. Probably 2 to 3 months, then I'll do another one, because at that point in time we'll probably have more units, so there's going to be a lot more unit to cover, and we are only going to be focusing on arena because like I said many times, all these units are going to perform exceptionally well in general content anyways. Obviously you have some are going to perform way better than some others, because obviously given what their role is supposed to be, like a main DPS or tank or just debuffer, buffer and whatnot. Obviously they do have the different role, but so that's why we want to focus specifically on arena, so we can kind of gauge how I feel like they would do, right? So yeah, let's kind of actually get started. So we have 33 units to kind of cover here, so I'm gonna see how fast I can kind of place all these units into the tier list. So how about we gonna start with some bangers in the house. We have this guy right here, these 2 minutes up in here. These two has been terrorizing arena for the longest, because this one applies the unavoidable status, and this guy right here takes advantage of enemy that has the unavoidable status. So these two has been making a rampage in arena, and we all hate it. I hate it because every time I see a team with these two units, and I just pray, I pray that I do not lose right out the bat, which I do. Most of the time I do. So yeah, pretty annoying, right? And we have this guy now. We have this guy that counted this guy. So this one is actually good, but I'm not gonna place it right up here as of yet. I think given the fact that this unit obviously is strong, but a lot of its attention is mainly with enemy that has the new type tag, so which I feel like a lot of units don't have that at the moment, so you can't really even use it at its full capacity. I'm not saying that it's not strong, but I just feel like its main intent usage is like against Zetas, like the O's, the Quibblies, and even like the double Zeta that we will be getting in the near future, and any other subsequent unit that has attack. So given the fact that we don't really have a lot of those options right now that you see running arena, I don't really find this unit to be that threatening for the time being. But I'm not saying, like I said again, I'm not saying it's not deadly with these three in combination. It still is. But I'm not saying it's not as severe as it would be in, I don't know, in a month or two or even 3 months later down the line. So that's what I think right now is a pretty good spot. We have the Zaku one with the big gun. I think I'm just gonna place it at A tier for now. I think it definitely made a resurgence after this guy right here, like these two combo. Wow, if you have been, for those that pay attention to how people usually line up their, I guess their team, these two are probably a problem, because this one is like a truck. Same thing with this one, right? Because they nearly have the same identical, I guess, functionality as far as how they play. So it makes it really annoying, but I think S Gundam definitely is a step above, just being really powerful on demand power. Just makes it really all out strong in any form of content. So there's definitely no denying that this unit is right where it's supposed to be. But for I want to feel like I want to say that for what is it, the Zaku one, being a purple element, it doesn't necessarily counter a lot of the I guess yellow element units as much as how this one will counter a lot of red units, because the color are just more expensive for blue and red, and even green is really expensive, but for yellow and purple it's really not really as much at the time being. So I think the usage could be more later down the road when we do have more of those options, but it's still really strong at the time being. Let's talk about one of the more related release. We have the Sazabi. I think it's not even a hot take, or maybe it is a hot take for some of you guys. I think with Sazabi, there's just a lot of problem within his kits with the evasions. You get more damage and whatnot. And then just the ability to activate an EX skill so you can buff your allies and then debuff the enemy. It really takes a long time for the EX skill gauge to charge. I think it's 20 seconds without any modification, aka the unit has been. So I'm not saying that this Sazabi is bad, but the evasion rate is not as on demand as you think it would be, because first of all you have to hit the enemy to build up that evasion gauge, which is the evasion rate. So many times you probably won't even get as many hits as you would want to actually suffice that. So granted, the fact that its own evasion on demand is only 10%, and then another 24% on the pilot, so you don't have the pilot, you're kind of screwed. So I feel like there are a lot of problems with Sazabi, which I feel is not going forever. It's not going to be good for arena. It's more going to be like a sideline unit for like any other general content, which I think it will definitely excel in. But for the time being a C tier is definitely a pretty good I guess a good place to be in. Speaking of the Sazabi, Char's counters, Char's counter stuff or Palestine, we have these now. So I'm gonna talk about all these at the same time. So Char's pilot all of these. Red Zaku, obviously. I think all of them has the same flaw, same weakness, same strength. Each individual one of them definitely has its own unique ability. We have the EX skill, which definitely greatly improves. I think this one probably even could be a little bit higher on the spot because of the fact that it's stun. So having the stun is pretty powerful for sure. And we have probably gonna be in this order. This guy is debuffing and also lower the enemy speed, which is actually quite powerful in arena. Well, this one only buffing Zaku, so if you're not really like a full Zaku team per se, you're not really taking advantage of that buff. And all of them having the same weakness is you have to evade. And one of the biggest blockage to that is this guy right here, and a lot more in the horizon. So that's why I think right now being B is definitely way too generous than I should have been. I think eventually they will definitely knock out of the B tier and probably going to be placed into the C tier for sure. I think these two, we have Mark II, Victory probably around the same line. Victory is not bad, alright, by any means it's not bad, but I think it's the fact that you have to build up, which is not meant for arena. It's meant for any other content than arena, which is just not the best place to be in. Definitely. I personally use Victory in my arena squad because I need a green unit just to counter. I have a lot of the other green unit, but they are not even level. I have all of them, but Victory is the one that has the most investment into, as well as the transcendent skills or the potential unleash. So that's why I have this one on the team. I'm not necessarily using it as to do anything. I'm having it as like a damage sponge, just to kind of eat up all the damage, take all of the hits, because I did put in like the HP module to give a little bit more beef to it. But other than that, I'm not really expecting Victory to do a whole lot, because by the time I'm done with it, because like it takes every 5 seconds to build up, like the match is probably over. So there's just not a whole lot of opportunity for Victory to shine. For Mark II, the main problem is this the lack of skill 1 and skill 2 like viability in arena. I feel like the main premise of this unit is to debuff, which I feel like definitely pretty good for any other content. But for arena, the ability to use that too often is probably not too good, given the fact that this one has a rain as well. So it's gonna be a lot harder as well. And then I forgot about this guy. Sazabi, obviously one of the banger releases alongside with the Sazabi. Definitely people were chasing this one over this unit, because this one to this day is still really powerful. Just the sheer amount of firepower this units are able to offer, and the sheer amount of tankiness this unit has over beam units. Like pretty much everything we covered so far except for the 3 Zaku's, they are all dealing beam damage. So it's not a fun time playing against this unit, because you're not going to be doing a lot of damage. So pretty unfortunate, right? And then we have I think for Unicorn probably going to be right here as well. It doesn't really contribute a whole lot anyway. I do recall that skill 2, upon taking damage, you do gain some buff as well. But let's be honest, by the time you do take damage, like, do you really think you'll be surviving any longer than you are able to do damage? Which I don't really think so. So I think, you know, placing Unicorn right there is, you know, fairly good as well. Narrative probably down here as well. Me personally, I don't really see a lot of people using narrative, and I personally don't use it. So I think safe to save is not really the best, and it's a raid and a red. So who do we see? We see this guy harassing this guy right here. Yeah, because blue versus red is just not fun, and yeah, unfortunate, right? And then we have Nu Gundam. I think Nu Gundam, man, I feel like Nu Gundam, I probably could place it right here. It does one job right. It heals, which I think right now we don't really have like a universally healing unit, which this is the only one thus far that is able to do it effectively and be able to do damage. But I think this is probably the best it will ever get, because it's, I think it will definitely fall off sooner than later, because this unit, first of all, is one of those that takes time to build up damage, right? And the whole like configuration of how the damage modifier is with like the main weapon, sub weapon, and third weapon, same thing with Sazabi, is just not that great. So I think right now is good where it should be, but I think eventually it's definitely gonna go into the C tier. We have this guy right here. I will probably place it up here as well. This unit is funny because it does two things. It has insane amount of accuracy, which you are able to counter a lot of the unit that has, you know, high evasion rate, because with they kind of balance out. If you have higher accuracy, you kind of counters the evasion. So this unit is pretty nice to counter, like in the likes of like these right here and this guy right here, or just any other unit that has, you know, high evasion rate. But what's good about this one, by the time you might think you're dying, you fall below 40% HP, this guy gains some more evasion rate. So this unit is cool in that way, because not only are you able to contribute, and at the same time you do have like a little bit of like a safety net. So by the time you do fall below 40%, you can start evading, which is actually not that bad. So I think given the meta that is heavily relying on evasion to be able to survive a lot of this hit, or you have to be like a really big damage dealer, I think these units are going to be sneaky good option just to make a play out of it. So not bad. We have GPO1 just gonna be down right here as well. It's not really contributing a whole lot into the meta, I feel like, so it's gonna be right here. And then we have this guy. We have the Nightingale. I think Nightingale is not that bad. It buffs, it does enough, but I feel like the best place is probably this one. Now looking at it, it's one of the first, what is it? Like, isn't this one like our first extreme? Yeah, this one is our first extreme limited banner, and I think there's just a lot of problems with this unit that I feel like for survivability wasn't really like all that nice up there. And given the fact that we do have quite a substantial red unit that can just innately counter this one, so being a raid is not going to be the most fun time. So I think right here is pretty good. We have Unicorn. I think Unicorn is good, but I think for Unicorn I'll probably place it right about here as well. Maybe a little bit higher than the Nightingale. Me personally, I never really uses this unit in both games as well. But I think it does enough to you do decent damage, but at the same time it's just not enough. I want to say. I think it increases like the projectile, like the third weapon, like damage by 70%, which is the bazooka. So do you guys think the bazooka is gonna do a whole lot? Not really, given the fact that the power is already pretty low to begin with. So it's not gonna make the biggest difference. All right, so I'm just gonna place it right here. We have the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is good. One of the few tanks that we have in game. So as we do progress this on, when we have better tanks, it's gonna probably outshine Thunderbolt for sure, because there's just a lot of utility stuff that this one does not have, what the other one has. But when that time comes, will be replaced. But for the time being, it's definitely pretty exceptional right up here. And then up next, we have this one. This one is good. I think I'm just gonna place it right here as well, alongside with this one. This one is a newly released, so I mean, like, I think it has a little bit better synergy with, like, you know, how the meta kind of revolves around. This one is not that as bad in a way, but I think it's definitely missing a few tweaks here and there that, you know, these two being the same, like, I feel like this one has a little bit of an edge, right? So I'll give it that. And then we have this guy. This one, I'll probably place it up here. Probably a hot take for a lot of people. I like this unit a lot because it does a lot of things, right? Not only does it, you know, when you evade, you recover HP. You also can debuff. You also can do high damage as well, given the kits that it has. So I think it's definitely a lot of hot take for people, but in terms of my usage on it, it has been fairly positive. Even though they're both like this one, dodging unit, but I think this one offers just a little bit more. All right, and survivability is definitely not an issue if you can evade, right? So this one is pretty nice. We have I think we're gonna put a lot of them right here, like these two right there and there, because this one is funny because the overall kit is more of like a tank role unit, but let's be honest, in a arena situation, tank has their unique ability because, or their perks, because they can attract enemy to the tanks, right? So the tanks takes all the beating, take all the absorb all the damage and whatnot. So it's all good. But if you run this unit, it's like a generic unit. So unless you have like a green unit that targets this one, like kind of lock on to it, otherwise I don't think any other unit is gonna attract to this one. So as far as being a tank, is good, but it's not really doing what the tank job is, to take the damage. So if you're not taking, if the kit has the tanking stuff in it, but you're not really utilizing them, then it's not going to be that great. So given that said, let's kind of place it right here. I think Break is the man, this one is a hard one because from time to time it does okay, but I think it kind of just died really fast. Like, there's just not a lot of like utility within the kit. It's more for like just a straight up DPS buff to like your strong unit. So I mean, like, let's kind of change it, you know. I think it's like it's not that bad to place them right there. And then we have Hamahama. I think Hamahama is actually pretty good. AoE EX gear, so it's always going to be nice to have EX gear that are AoE specifics, because you can always deal damage to everyone, which is going to be fantastic. So I think it's not bad right there. And then we have this guy. I think for arena, even though the G3 is one of those that self-inflicts damage while you do damage to the enemy, but I think given how fast arena matches just kind of ends, I think for the G3, you probably wouldn't even implode from self-inflection. So first of all, you do high damage already, and then if you are able to just, you know, finish off the enemy before you finish off yourself, it's a good trade-off already. So we just place it right there. I think for the Pale Rider, this one may be a hot take because I see a lot of people running the Pale Rider, but the thing is, it's the same as this guy right here, right? We don't have a lot of new type unit to counter, and especially this one is green, so it's not really gonna directly counter this one, right? So I feel like as time passes by, when we have more new type unit, this one might probably be like here for sure, because you have a lot of the utility that makes it strong against new type, which, you know, definitely a must have later down the road. And then we have, let's see, probably right here, Gundam. Not really gonna be offering too much in a arena situation, but this is not bad. Kenfo gonna be right here. Is it does good of a job to just be right here. And the GPO one full burn here. This one is a pretty good support. Via the EX skill, definitely really good, and it does decent damage, right? And I think it's definitely not a bad spot. Same thing for the maybe for the Delta Plus. I think it's not. I think Delta Plus should be right here. Given the fact that right now it's still a blue dominant meta, so I feel like this one, in my earlier tier list, I placed this one pretty low because of the transcendent skill, which is I think it still holds true, because if you don't have the transcendent skill, you're not really offering too much, and there's just a lot more utility that makes this unit more powerful. But yeah, the EX skill definitely does a lot more different things, like increased accuracy and whatnot, but I feel like in arena, man, you just can't really take advantage of everything. So I think right here towards the end is not bad. And I'm just gonna end things off by putting up the Dom Rick's Dom right here, or the Gato's Rick's Dom over here. It's a tank, obviously it's pretty nice to have, right? But I think, you know, there are situations I feel like I wouldn't run it in a way, just because it's just not as good as it should be, because you are easily able to get counter, right? So I think that's pretty much it. Definitely a lot of hot takes within this over tier list, but you guys have definitely let me know how much do you guys agree with this list, and then what will you move, like, from, you know, let's say, given the fact that's a Sazabi, where will you guys actually place it in arena? You guys can definitely let me know how you feel about this list down in the comment section below, and then I will come back to revisit this list, you know, 2 to 3 months later when we have more better units. So it's probably going to be somewhere around March or April, so that's going to be around the happy anniversary, somewhere around that line. So I will be catching you guys all when that time comes.